What's up, writers? Today we are doing a super quick tutorial on how I do my editing in Scrivener and on Google Docs. I tend to use both because they're great for different things, and I will show you exactly why in a few moments. So first things first, when I'm in Scrivener, I really do like to be able to look back and see how my work has changed from the beginning to the end. So I always end up making a duplicate copy of my manuscript. And then just popping it into a drafts folder. This keeps it nice and safe. This way I have versions of every iteration I do. So I save a new version after every round of edits. So this isn't a completed manuscript, obviously. It's only got 4 chapters right now, but all of my other Scrivener files are already all set up. So I wanted to give you guys a quick glimpse on how I quickly set this up. After I copy that over, this is typically how it looks. I've got my outline on my side and the manuscript in here, as you guys saw in my last Scrivener tutorial. But I don't really need my outline at this point, so it gets popped into my research folder so that, it's still around, but I don't need it right this second. And instead, I make myself a notes file. And again, I typically have a notes file for every iteration. It gets duplicated over with my manuscript, and then I will lock this in place like I did with my outline last time. After this, I basically just start my first round of reading through stuff. If we go look over here, I made a little sheet. This is my process. Everybody's process is different depending on if you have an editor or if you have beta readers or if you have, or if you prefer to keep it to yourself until it's, really clean and crisp. This is my process though. So after I've, set this all up, my first thing will be a read through. So I'm going to go through this manuscript and I'm just going to change little things. So like, spelling, grammar, sentences that don't make sense, inconsistencies, that sort of stuff. No big changes. But as I go through it, I'm going to be taking notes. So let's say I'm constantly writing the wrong color eyes for somebody. So make sure Emery's eyes are always gray. Or bigger stuff like add new scene to fill space between chapter 1 and 2. Or, really generic stuff like build up relationship between Z and Cooper more. Just like general ideas of stuff that I feel like needs to be worked in. And that stuff I'm going to do when I get to my, first round of major edits and fixes. In between this, though, I always wait at least 2 weeks, because it just gives me that space so that I'm not expecting what's going to come next. When you expect something, or if you already know what you wrote, if you don't give yourself that space, it's very likely that when you go back to it, you're going to just see what you expect to see, which means that spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, or even like assumptions on what the reader knows or doesn't know might be made, and that just means that you're going to leave gaps that are going to cause you problems later. So wait at least a couple of weeks, sometimes a month, sometimes 6. It really just depends on what my schedule is like at that point. And then I go through my first round of major edits and fixes. And that's when I go through these notes and really just like clean it up, rip it apart, fix everything so that it is at least readable for the next section, which is when I send it off to my editor and or beta readers, or both. Or neither. Sometimes I skip this depending on the project. So this can take anywhere between, a week and a couple of months, depending on who you are working with and how quickly they do their stuff. But for this process, typically I don't use Scrivener. I don't find that Scrivener is very good at dealing with more than one person working on a file at a time. And it's also just not as easy to accept your or your editor's changes. This is where I use Google Docs. So when we're in here, and let's say my editor decided that she didn't like this, within Scrivener or anything else, she would, highlight it, maybe make a note over here. But that's just kind of annoying for me, because then when I come back through it, I have to fix it. I have to go through every time she made some sort of edit. I have to unhighlight it, then fix it, make sure I understand her notes. But in Google Docs, we can go in here to the suggesting section. And all this does is it makes everything temporary, easy to remove. So, okay, let's say, again, she thinks this particular paragraph needs to leave. All she has to do is hit delete. That's all I did there. It doesn't actually affect anything. So if I go back to editing, and I do the same thing, it actually deletes it. But in suggesting, it just puts this line through it, marks it with her color. My color is green on this file, but my editor's color would be something different. And it would tell me who's here. And basically, she can leave whatever notes she wants. And then, and little things like the very, that's a terrible addition. I shouldn't put that there, but that's fine. She can make any kinds of edits she wants. And all I have to do is go over here and hit accept suggestion, because I have my internet off to avoid people interrupting me with pings. This would normally have a check mark here, and you could just accept it, which I don't actually want to do. Or you can, go no. Or you could leave a note there underneath that says, oh, are you sure about this? This is the reason I had this in here, whatever else. It just makes editing and sharing edits between two people so much easier. I definitely suggest it. I absolutely think that you guys should look into this if you haven't already. Just make sure that when you actually want to change things, you go back to your editing thing, because otherwise it doesn't really work. So after this, I will actually copy the whole thing back into Scrivener, because that's just my preferred workspace. And it will go, back in here. And the previous manuscript will be copied over into my drafts folder, so that, again, I can keep a nice record of all the different versions. After that, obviously accepting changes, edits, and suggestions, which would have been done there. And then I wait a couple weeks again. You got to leave space to give yourself that breathing room and that distance, so you start forgetting what you wrote, and it's a little bit of a surprise again. And after that, it's just repeating the process. You can do this as many times as you want. Go through, read through, wait a couple weeks, do a major run of the edits that you thought of when you were doing your read through, send it off to more beta readers or to your editor again or whatever else, accepting the changes, and repeat. But you have to be able to see where the right place to stop is. I know a lot of people suggest 3 passes is like the cap. You really shouldn't do more than that. I very much believe that it just depends on the story and how rough it was to begin with, and just what you feel. You have to be careful, though, not to get caught in the trap of editing just to avoid attempting publishing. I will happily admit that I am very much stuck in that right now with a couple of my stories. So this is actually just me telling me, find the right place to stop and go forward. Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect. It just can't be. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below, and I will happily explain any other little quirks or quips that you've noticed when we're going through this stuff. Or if you have any other suggestions for tutorials or, other questions, I am happy to help. You can get a hold of me on any of my social media, which you can find in the links below. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.